Hi, honey.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I've just returned from a little week, like bounce around the country because I was here. I went to the Bay Area to meet my cute little niece, Nora Simone. And then I was in Atlanta for an engagement party. And then I got back yesterday. So I'm just settling back in. But I always like, it's really nice to come home, even though I had a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
I saw that photo of your niece. So sweet.
She's the cutest. She has the best energy. Like she's already my favorite, even though love you too, guys. I can't lie.
You're
It's
not
so
so.
wild because like humans, even at that size, like they have a frequency.
Yes,
Like
they do.
I like the difference between her and her brother. I'm like, oh, like I could feel it immediately.
It's true. It's true. All of my children, starting off, even in the womb, they're different. It's like you can feel their energy and their personalities before they're even out in the world, and they're different.
Yeah. She just feels like she's like super grounded, super confident. Like she's so chill. She latched right away. It's like she's done this dance, you know? She's just like, I'm good. Yeah. Um, so that was beautiful. I'm really happy to have you here today to kick us off with the one incredible episode. So we always have coming out of having just run Feminine Magic and Money. And you were just such an incredible participant in the mastermind. And you went through some really crazy life changing events in the mastermind that no one would ever expected. So I think that will be great to dive into and just had so many cool things happening. So before we get started with that, if you could just share who you are, where you live. You know, we like to do sun, moon, and rising, just kind of like what you do, just a little bit, even a little bit of your backstory. You're a mom, you got lots of kitties at home. We'd love to hear about that. And just, a little about you.
Okay. My name is Hani. I live in Maui and I was born and raised on the Big Island. So I've been in Hawaii my whole life. I have four children. Not that we plan to have four children, but we do. It's great. My oldest is 16 and my littlest is 3. And I am a Sagittarius. I have a Sagittarius sun and Capricorn moon, which I don't know too much about, but definitely resonate with the Sagittarian vibe for sure. Um, I have a business, Breath of Hani, and I'm a coach and breathwork facilitator, and I guide women in essentially elevating the frequency of their home and in how they support their children and just creating a home environment that feels like really fucking good, kind of shifting the whole motherhood paradigm.
Out of martyrdom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, into something that feels good.
Yeah, it's so important. And this work comes up for all moms. So, you already know that I love what you're doing.
Mm.
So thank you so much. So could you share with us kind of, I'm not sure, you came into my world a while ago. You signed up for FMM very early. I think you signed up for
Yeah.
FMM at the end of last year before this year's round. And so I would love to hear just kind of what was like what drew you into this space and what was going on in your life with business, with yourself, with money, like all the different areas that led you into my direction.
So I had been listening to your podcast on like binging it, like most all of your listeners do. And actually, this is a really funny story. So my littlest, since I have four kids, like we're in the car all the time, going everywhere.
Yeah.
And in Hawaii, you call like any woman is auntie. And so I remember Mila, probably about a year or so ago, we get in the car and she goes, Mom, is Auntie going to talk to us again? And she meant you.
That
Yeah.
is my favorite thing of all time. That is
I,
so
yeah.
cute.
When you asked me to be on the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, full circle moment. I'm going to talk to the Auntie live.
This is so funny because Jessica from FMM, her 9-year-old was like, so he always hears me talking. And he was like, I like that lady. I like her energy. And she was like, why? And he was like, because when she gets excited, she swears. And I like
Yeah, maybe that's why
I
my kids
like that.
resonate too, right? They're like, oh, that sounds like mom. She swears and she's excited. That's funny. So yeah, so I just liked everything that you were sharing so much. And at that point, I was implementing it. We have a family business that I just like do the accounting. It wasn't my thing. It's what supports us very well here. And I knew there was something I wanted for that was just all mine. There was something that I wanted to share with the world. I just didn't know what it was at that time. But I
Yeah.
knew once that kind of came to fruition that I wanted to work with you. And so when I had enrolled in FMM, I was kind of in the middle of a deep dive of just like self-development and really kind of entering a new chapter, I guess, so to speak, in my life. And I was like, well, I can do FMM because it's not business related. And
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what I want to do business wise yet. And so and I think you were doing a special, I don't know, I just paid for it. And I was like, I'm doing that and put it in my back pocket. And in the meantime, because that was probably in like November of last
Oh,
year.
yeah. It was like you signed up during High Level Honey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like a year
It
ago.
was lit. It was like lit, probably 6 months before we started. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in that 6 months or longer while I was waiting, I just had done a lot of work and I did a bunch of your master classes. Like I did overflow. What else did I do? I had done the Cash Queen and just here and there.
And you
And
had access to the content portal before we started live
yeah,
too.
yeah, which I probably had gone through all of that before even the
But
end of
it's good. That's
2022.
one of
Yeah.
the benefits of doing all of that before we start. Like you will
Yeah.
actually see changes just from that before we
Mhm.
even start. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was able to, in that the next 6 months before FMM started, came very, very clear on my mission and what I want to do and what I have to bring to the world and just everything. All the pieces, the puzzle pieces just kind of started coming together. And I enrolled when all the puzzle pieces started coming together. I enrolled in the cohort, but because I had so much on my plate, I was like, I'm going to wait. And I waited until September, which it was all complete divine
That was
timing and
perfect. You
how it
also,
all worked out. Yeah.
yeah, I think that was good because you were also in a lot of different things. And it was just like, and you rolled right off FMM into the cohort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did within a week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, amazing. So let's chat about what happens in the container because it was pretty wild. Oh, do you want to share too, kind of what was going on before we switch to that topic? Because I feel like you also, in addition to all the fun money things that happened, you had a lot of development on the personal front, which is so important in terms of like the who we're becoming, who we're being, et cetera, et cetera. How did you feel before you started? Or were these areas where you're like, I didn't even really know they needed to develop. And then when they did, I noticed the difference? Or did you consciously like feel something that drew you in?
I think, you know what happens, and I was talking to Elise about this, where it's like you wake up every morning and you're the same person. You look in the mirror, it's the same person. And it's like these subtle shifts that happen over an extended amount of time that all of a sudden you turn around, you're like, holy shit, I'm a completely transformed human.
Yeah.
And yeah, so coming into the container, I was focused on being the best version of myself that I could
Yeah.
be. But I think I was a lot more wobbly and kind of didn't really know what that looked like, so to speak. Like I feel so much more secure and solid just in my being
Yeah.
from just that short amount of time.
What happens in 3 months? When I say we quantum leap, I mean it. What happens in 3 months? Like you barely recognize yourself in 90 days.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
And you can, when you really look, stop and look, you're like, oh my gosh. Like if I feel back into my person I was in June when I started, and
yeah.
it's like, yeah, completely different. Yet I'm living kind of the same life.
Yeah, but this
Mhm.
is how we collapse time.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. So let's talk about what happened in the container. I know so many things. So why don't we just go in a bit of a chronological order of like the miraculous things that happened for you? And not just that, but I'd love to hear about actually before we even get to that, like just your experience being in the space, because I feel like it's a container in my world where all the women who come in, it's not even necessarily on logic. They just know they're supposed to be there. There's just this feeling. It's very different than when someone's like, yep, I want to build my business to 10K, 50K, 100K months. I want to do it with Jocelyn, boom, boom. Like it just, that feeling can kind of feel more tangible. But there's something about FMM because of the magic, because of the medicine woman style work, because of the way that like we work with divine and the goddesses and our bodies and like all these different non-linear ways of being, like it tends to, I feel like people come in more on a feeling than they do. And like, of course, the insane results that come out of it and being drawn to me and wanting to just like explore more of themselves and elevate more of themselves in sisterhood. But that container just has a feeling around it that is very different from everything else in my business, I feel.
Yeah, and I thought I shared with somebody, I'm not sure who, but it's really, really amazing to put yourself in the room with people who like are where, not necessarily where you're at specifically in life, but energetically, like we all want to be there. Like we're all coming together from all over the world. And it's like, it just feels different. It's like we're all on the same plane, you
Right.
know?
Well, because everybody already comes in believing in magic, you know, and like desiring to be more deeply activated in that. People aren't drawn into this space who aren't open to that and aren't open to frequency and all of these different concepts. Like, that's something I love about FMM. I'm never having I'm never trying to like showcase how it's real. Everybody comes in believing that it's real and wanting to tune into it.
And so being able to explore that with like-minded people is so fun. And being able to share like in the Voxer chat, all of these things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily share in the same way with other people, it just
Yeah.
feels good. It's like liberating where it's like you just get to fully be all of yourself,
And it's
which I
so
mean,
cool because there's not one specific focus in terms of like we're very focused on your business or we're very focused on that. It's like I feel like there's so much space to share. And even in my business containers, I'm always saying bring all of you forward 100%. But people are primarily there to build their business, but in FMM, yeah, it winds up building people's businesses, but it's not as direct as like with strategy. So one of the things I love about it too is everyone's just sharing like from such a big range of their life. It's not just like through the one thing. It's like relationship to self, to body, how we're looking with others, communication, magic, new levels of awareness, crazy dreams, visions. Like it's just so like dynamic and broad, which I think is so cool.
I totally agree. And then sharing it with everybody, it just makes it more exciting and fun. And um, yeah, it just feels good.
It does.
And
It's a
it's like I would have never met any of these women otherwise. I actually, one of the women, she came to Maui right at the
Oh,
beginning.
Nicole, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And no, Natalie.
Natalie.
Yeah.
Who's Nicole? Where did I get Nicole?
I don't know. There was no
I'm
Nicole.
like, you're right. And Natalie's also, yeah.
And that
I'm
was
like,
so,
there's some type of Nicole entering my field because I'm like,
yeah.
obviously I know Natalie's name. I'm like, what was that? Okay. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so that was just kind of a random thing. She's like, "Hey, I'm visiting. I'm in Napoleon." So we went out and had breakfast, and that was like so special. Like I would have never, and she actually lives pretty close to where my brother lives in Arizona, so I'm sure we'll see each other back and forth because yeah, it's like we have that connection. So that
Yeah.
was fun, and I would have never known otherwise.
It's
So
a
it's
close
kind of,
sisterhood. You get close very
yeah,
quickly because of the type of work we do.
yeah, it's like the universe brings you all together in just perfect timing.
Yeah, I'm like, if you've done cervix arming with a woman, you know,
I
you're gonna be
wasn't alive
friends.
for that one.
So what was it like then? Just because of, the work tends to be quite alternative from what we've thought of when we think of healing, right? And so a lot of it, like I said before, I always say it's like, and the woman I bring together, what I bring for it, et cetera, et cetera. It's all in the vein of like medicine woman. It's very different than what we traditionally think of when we think of, our healing journey, our personal development, et cetera, et cetera. And it's intended to be different because the whole point is speed. So of course, different things are going to get you there than what we're used to. And so how was that for you? Because there was so much, range and also kind of like difference in the style of work.
Well, I am familiar with alternative healing modalities. Like I've done a lot of quantum healing sessions and like I'm open to it all. Probably one of my most favorite things was the spell.
The
Um,
spells are, and they work. You got
yeah,
to see that it
I have
works.
I have all of my candles in my office, and I'm like, when I'm preparing to do something, I'm like, okay, what do I want?
Casting a spell first.
I know my husband will come up and he's like, what's up with like the green candle? Like, what is
You're like,
going
I'm
on?
calling in money. Just wait.
Yeah. So that was really fun. So, um, remind me of your question. I'm
Oh, I
sorry.
was just saying, like, basically asking how you received the work. Like, of course, most people who come in have had like some exposure to different
Mhm.
types of modalities, et cetera, et cetera. But it very much, the work all works kind of like on the quantum field, if we want to use that terminology. And then I would say through the body for some, depending on what we're doing. But even to your point around magic, it's like, how do you explain it? And then you saw, I told you guys the Voxer chat was fucking popping 24 hours later. Everybody's like, this happened, this happened, this happened. I'm like, yep, it's real.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved it all. I like every single one of them, and I can redo them as often as I like too, because it's
Yeah. So great. Okay. So let's talk about what happens inside the space. And it was so many things for you.
Mhm.
Also mixed in with the Maui fires, which is obviously very intense. And so I'm really glad that you had this space too, in
Mhm.
addition to all the other ways you were supported when this happened, because obviously nobody saw that coming. But yeah, I would just love to hear about kind of like if you want to go through in some type of chronological order like things that transpired for you and the big differences that tangible, and then also like the differences you saw in your life.
So I'll start like with kind of just a feeling in my body. So coming into the container at the beginning of summer, in like my 3D minds, I'm like, oh shit, it's summertime. I have 4 kids at home. Like, how am I going to manage my time? And I want my time for myself. And like, I've always had this very big obsession with time. I think in the first few days in the Voxer chat, I was like, so how do you view time? Like, what's your perspective on time? Um, and so, but the most amazing thing happened. And even to today, it's like I'm more busy, I feel like, than I've, quote unquote, busy than I've ever been. And I feel like I have more time than I've ever had. So my relationship with time completely transformed. Um, and not really by doing anything. I think you gave me a couple of ways in which to look at it. And like you use the word optimizing time, where I was so stuck on being efficient, and just the energy behind the word and shifting that. Like, so I would think, okay, this is what I have on my plate for today. So how do I optimize my time versus how do I be efficient with my time? That did something inside of my body that completely changed. I don't know if it would be how I view time or just how it feels or whatever it is, but that opened up completely. Like my relationship with time transformed in the very best way. Um, and then, I was at as many of the calls live as I could be. And there wasn't I didn't make up a story about any reason of why I could or I couldn't. It just like was, and it felt good when I was there, and it felt good when I did the replays. Um, And then starting off in the container, I was very stressed out because I have 3 kids in private school and it's a shit ton of money. And I knew I was going to be able to pay it because we have been. It was just the timing of it was we had multiple things and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so I did that right at the beginning. I was like, okay, I'm feeling stressed out about this. What do I do? You gave me a few little tips on just how to change my perspective, paid that with no problem, felt good. And then I had another investment opportunity and I had to come up with $50,000 out of thin air, pretty much because I didn't have the extra 50,000 on top of everything else. And I managed to in 2 weeks. Like it just, and I did that investment, no problem, felt good about it. There was no stress or, how am I going to replace this now that I let go of it? Do you have any questions? Do you want me to elaborate on anything or just keep going in order?
Just do your thing.
I'm trying to think. I feel like there were so many little things in between. I feel like you gave me a lot of, I don't even know if advice would be the right word. I'm not sure what the
Maybe it was
word.
mentorship. That's what we
Yeah.
were doing. Yeah.
In just how to like move throughout my days and weeks. And it wasn't
Basically
even,
like how to do life. Because
yeah. And it
most of what
wasn't
we're
like,
doing with life is like our everyday life, and people really
Mhm.
trip themselves up.
Yeah. And I really like by being in the container and I mean, having looked forward to it for so long, like I really took in everything and I thought about things. And sometimes I would re-listen to some messages when I would ask a question. And I really like utilized the information and the frequencies and all of the energy being put into it. And I also got a lot from other women's questions as well. But I was, yeah, so I was able to just kind of like feel better in my own body with how I um just was operating day to day. I didn't have that chaotic feeling. Like that kind of just dissipated.
That
And
like low grade anxiety that just like hangs out all
yeah,
the time. Yeah.
yeah, where this was one thing, like this is what would happen quite a bit. And I have been aware of this feeling for quite some time. And so I had been like working on it, but it just wasn't, I couldn't quite kick it. Like I would have some good spells and then it would kind of come back. Like just that kind of like panting, like keep your head above water. What am I going to do? And this was one thing. What was I just going to say? It totally.
You were talking about how you would have, you were talking about like that feeling in your body and how you'd have that kind of like low grade anxiety or like be doing well. And then all of a sudden, like that panting energy would come online about like, what am I going to do? And you were talking about how that dissolved.
How I had been, yeah, like working on that for a while and just being, I don't even really know how it happened. It just went away where I just
Because
felt
it's
good.
just a byproduct of doing the work. It
Yeah,
works.
this is what I was going to say. I had a lot of, or I know I had multiple weeks of questions with this where I would feel really, really good throughout the week and I would be on point and, my structure, my routine, everything's going smooth. And then it would come the weekend or something, some event would happen and it would completely derail me. So that then I would almost have to backtrack to get back to that neutral place where I'm like, okay, now let's go at it again. And then be feeling really good and on like a good rhythm and everything's going good and then get derailed again. So the derailing, I think probably why I just forgot it was that is totally gone. Like I do not feel like that. I almost like forgot about it.
This
So
is what we want.
yeah,
Amazing.
it's like I don't feel like I have to get into that catch up mode where I'm like, okay, here we go.
Like get back in
It's,
the saddle. Well, and this is what I mean by the energetic optimization, because imagine if you clock the number of days you spend getting back on the saddle instead of just being neutral and grounded all the time, how much time do you think we've wasted? Or like
yeah,
what we could have created instead? Like it's not optimal at all
no, it would be like, okay, 5 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's like, why
as
don't you
life.
5 steps forward and then have a 6 step forward right after? So
Yeah.
that was a huge thing. Um, And then as we closed in on, so a lot of little subtle kind of things like that, that I don't even feel like I was really aware that it was happening while it was happening. It was more the reflection afterwards where I'm like, wow, I feel good. I feel like I'm totally caught up. I feel secure in myself, like neutral, the way I'm communicating. Just everything, like the relationship dynamics in our home, you know, I mean, you can imagine there's 6 of us. It's like we can be all over the place, but it's like for me to come back to, like, I'm human, I lose my shit, right? But it's like I come back to that neutral space so quick, so much quicker. It's not like the drama around it. It's like I don't have that. And I had been working really hard to get to that point, but it seemed like it just completely anchored in, like embodied so deep while I was in this container.
And isn't it so cool? The container is 90 days. This is
Yeah.
stuff people work on for years, as I imagine you were.
Yeah. Yes.
And this is the whole thing, or even that cycle of like feeling good, then not good, good, not good, grounded, chaotic. Like,
Yeah.
how many years did you spend doing that?
Yes. Yes. That is, I don't feel like that. And even though, which I'll get to when the fires happened, and that was just like,
I mean,
I
that's
mean,
very jarring, but yeah.
talk about like, yeah, getting derailed, my experience. And I even had thought, you know, when we were a few weeks into it, I'm like, I wonder what this would have been like had I not had the amount of support that I've like intentionally put into place for myself, you know? Yeah. So we're closing in on the end of summer, and my kids are all going back to school on August 9th. And, you know, I'm like super excited because I have all, like, I'm going to start the cohort and I have all these like really big things and plans. And we wake up on the 8th, and it's the most insane, crazy hurricane winds, like nothing I've ever like personally experienced. It was like, holy shit. And my husband said, he was like, if there's a fire, this is going to be like really, really bad. And he used to be a fireman about 10 years ago. So in the afternoon, when we saw the smoke, it was south of us. He was like, okay, I think we should start packing up some things. So I did. And then we started hearing propane tanks going off like every couple of minutes. And he was like, all right, like we're out of here. So we were going up north to a friend's house. And there was telephone poles down, and there was like traffic. And we got our family, like that's was our main concern, was like, I don't want my children to have to experience anything more traumatic than what they're already going to experience by being stuck and a fire chasing them. So we got out of there, and over the course of the night, the wind was so insane, and I knew that the water tanks had exploded and weren't working. So there was no water to even fight the fires. And I could just hear the wind whipping. And I was like, kind of on some level, just accepted what was, but not really being able to grasp the enormity of it. And I woke up in the morning, and somebody had said everything to the Lahaina post office is gone, which would be my neighborhood. And we have spent the last 5 years renovating this most gorgeous plantation style home. And I'm like, I had taken the few things that were really important. Like, I'm not a very stuff kind of person. Like, I'm not super attached. I like my space, but that can be created wherever you're at. So I kind of came to terms with like, wow, like, wow, what am I, you know, and was kind of devastated. And then one of our friends came who had been on a dirt bike with a video, and he had been videoing the whole neighborhood. And he showed us a video of our beautiful greenhouse standing there with the mango trees lush, and the yard not even like singed, and just standing there like perfectly immaculate. And I think I like broke down more at that point, where I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember very clearly in the night listening to the wind, and I couldn't I couldn't wrap my head around my house actually burning down. Like I couldn't see that as an option. And I don't know if it's because I like on some level knew that that wasn't going to happen, or powerful energetic forces were in play. I don't know. I don't really believe in luck, like,
No.
yeah. And so I think it's, if I'm completely honest, I think it's all of the energetic work that my husband and I have put into that property. Like we created it very different from, we kept it in its true nature. Like it's a huge lot. We took really good care of it. It was clean. Like there were so many things and just love. And not that other people didn't do that for their homes. So I'm not speaking towards their circumstances, right? I'm just speaking towards mine. Um, but yeah, so that was like, oh my gosh, my house is saved. There was no internet, there was nothing. I think I had gone to the other side of the island to do banking days and days after, and I had a message from you like, hey, like, are you in Lahaina? Are you alive? Are you okay? Like, what's going on? Because I had no contact with anybody. And immediately after the fire, we had a client who gave us a house to live in. And we just kind of pulled our family out. It was absolute chaos, like chaos. And we just pulled our family out of it. And we're like, we need to think as clear as we can, because we have some huge decisions on what we're going to do and how we're going to operate moving forward. Luckily, our business was not harmed because it's up north. My kids go to a private school up north, so that wasn't an issue. And then I left with my kids to Arizona to decide what we were going to do. And in that couple of weeks, my husband gave away, gosh, like so much happened. I don't even like know how to, he like started just giving away tools and vehicles and trailers. And we have a landscape company, and he got 8 companies up and running. He was like, are you okay with this? I'm just, helping people out. And I was like, sure. I think it was therapeutic for him. And I was just, I was with the kids and dealing with that and holding them through the experience and figuring out what we were going to do with our lives. And one of our clients got wind of what he was doing and said, we would like to put together a much larger fund and for you to distribute to people and businesses that you think would benefit. Like we want to give you that task. So he and I put together a bunch of like names and businesses and people who were essentially, we were helping people who wanted to help themselves. And which was it's like almost like a testament to what we are able to have and hold in flow. And there was like a lot of concepts from overflow that I had done that I had been
Share
thinking
them.
about. Yeah. Well, just with like, yeah, just having, I don't know if responsibility is the right word, but yeah, being responsible. Somebody saying like, or the universe being like, you are completely capable and the right person for us to give $250,000 to and disperse in the best way possible, And so that felt really good. It felt really good. And it felt like the attachment to money in I think this is what it is. And my husband and I giving so much away through like, he would be like, hey, I saw so-and-so and they're really down and out. So I took $5,000 out of our account and just gave it to him. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. He's like, how do you feel about that? I'm like, okay, that's cool. And he's like, like whatever we do is all gonna come back to us. And I'm like, yep, I'm right there with you. So overflow, right? It's like anything that leaves, it's just going to be put back.
The replenishing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we did that. And it felt really good. It was very therapeutic. And we did a lot of and we weren't doing it for the wonderful thing. It was like, we genuinely cared and were put in this place to like be stewards, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for me to come back with the kids was, where are we going to live for the foreseeable future? So one of our clients called and he was kind of, my husband was putting that together and working on business stuff while we were away. And one of our clients called and was like, hey, we're not going to be there. So you can have our house for the next year. And it's like, not just a house, like a little mini resort. It's like insane, like insane. Um, and not to make light of the situation in any capacity, because we're still dealing with it emotionally, but to have that backing and security just felt so good. And like the swimming pool with the waterfall in it, it's like my kids get to actually just kind of be present and be kids, right? It's like without this looming dread over them. So that was amazing, with no financial obligation whatsoever. Just, and I know all of this happened because of the people that we are and all of the work that we've put into relationships, building relationships, and the work we've done on ourselves, and to like set ourselves up to a place where something like this catastrophic happens and it's like we land on our 2 feet, you know, and carry our children through it. So in the course of that, like of August, it was like we were just getting deposits after deposits after deposits in our bank account. Like it was flowing. It was definitely flowing. And like we were receiving, we were flowing. You know, there was a lot of that. And we came back to Maui. My kids started school. My husband jokes that like we're the luckiest homeless people alive, which on some level it's like it's funny and it's also like, oh my gosh. But then we ended up buying, this was another really cool thing that happened inside of the container, was we bought another truck because we had given one away. And it was like the easiest $50,000 like we've ever, the transaction was, there was zero drama. There was no, well, should we put this much down or do this? Or I don't know if I want this, or can you give me a better deal? Or I just remember all these stories buying cars when I was younger. And even reflecting back to the beginning of the container where I wanted to do this investment, which was at $50,000. And I was like, kind of like in constriction mode.
Yeah, constriction. Yeah.
That was not like, we went out, we were like, this is what we want. Okay. That's the price. Okay, cool. Done. Went out to lunch. And then we both kind of looked at each other and we're like, wow, like we would have not handled things like that not so long ago, you know, which is another really cool thing, right? Because it's not like my husband was in FMM with me, but on some level, like he totally was without realizing it, right? Because he and I are very in sync. So just holding that frequency together was
Yeah.
that was a really cool thing to witness. It's not like, oh, I'm doing all this work separate, right? Like when you're connected, you're connected. So it's like he
And it's
changes.
always like that. Yeah.
I change, he change. Yeah, you know what I mean. So, and then
And I love this too, because it's like, if we feel constriction moving large amounts of money, how are we going to receive lots of money? Like everybody wants to anchor the receiving side. And like I talk about in overflow, and obviously comes up in FMM as well. It's like receiving, holding, growing, flowing. Like we really have to anchor all four of these with money, you know? And it's like, yeah, people who can receive money with a lot of ease and neutrality can also who can release money with a lot of ease and neutrality can also receive money with a lot of ease and neutrality.
mm-hmm.
So this is just so cool that you developed this.
Yeah, that
And you
was,
saw the fruits of doing so. Look at all the crazy stuff that was coming in.
yeah. So then to top it off, I mean, I'm sure there was some more things that I just can't even think of right now, but on the closing day of FMM, I like miracle money, just completely random from left field, $28,000. I closed out the container just with a check in the mail and then 2 deposits into my
Like account. On the very last day.
On the very last day, while we were doing the closing meditation. I had a new bed. I wanted a new bed and that was being delivered. And he's like knocking at my door. And I'm like, I'm trying to like close out this container, but I was like, I'll put it on hold. I want the new bed. And so they deliver the bed, and yeah, it was on the last day, and I knew about there was one $8,000 check that was super random, and I think I had mentioned that in the closing session, and then I went online and looked at my bank a few hours later, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding me right now? So yeah, it was so it was a lot. It was a lot in the best ways. And I now I do feel here was the other most incredible thing that I had shared in the Voxer chat, was in regards to my business and everything that I'm doing and sharing and supporting women with, where it's not that I felt shaky about it, but when you're doing new things, it's yeah, you have to walk through all of that. Well, I embodied everything that I support women with so deeply by my own experience of holding my family through this traumatic time, because everybody's at different stages in life. I have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a husband. And so all of these relationships need a different type of attention and care and energy. And I did so good. I did so good. I'm so proud of myself. Like, we stayed so solid. My husband and I were so solid through it. Our family just, I feel, is just rising above it and through it. And yeah, we have to, going through so I also did this trauma release breath work that I put out, which in the container, and I got 60 people joined, which was
Which is
amazing.
just insane. And also, let's remember, everybody, you didn't have a business really. Like, you're very new. So this is so cool.
Yes. It was like here and there, kind of, I was doing things, and I was like, I was
But meaning you're
facilitating
not established where that would be like,
no,
oh,
and I wasn't
obvious,
like,
yeah.
I was waiting until my kids had gone back to school, and I was gonna then put like focused attention in that direction. So that was really cool. And one of my main points when I did this recording for trauma release, and I'd done it in honor of the Lahaina fires, was about, it's like you have to walk through things to get to the other side, right? It's like you can't expect to just jump over it or go under or go around and then you're going to be this transformed person. It's like, no, what are you going to do through it? And how are you going to handle yourself? And how are you going to move through that? That is then going to determine who you are on the other side. And I had to have this conversation with my son, who's 16, and he had a really hard time because he's a swimmer. He's a state champ swimmer. He wants to swim in college. It's like his thing. He's a phenomenal athlete. And he's like, Mom, I can't. And the aquatic center is gone, which that was the other cool thing. I was able to get a private swimming pool and get a coach to train my kids, which was a really, really big deal about us coming back to Maui. Side note.
Yeah.
But he said to me, Mom, I can't have this setback. And I was like, son, like, you do. We all have this setback. Like, it's a huge, huge fucking setback. And it's what you do and the decisions that we make as a family and how we handle ourselves that's going to determine our outcome on the other side. So we need to face what it is and walk ourselves through it. And I'm like covered in chills right now. And he heard me, and he actually completely melted down at that point. It was almost like that was the thing that got through to him, where then we could start making decisions moving forward and what we were going to do for our family, because he was pretty much wanted to run away. But
this is also the journey of the athlete. The journey of the has he watched David Beckham's documentary? I watched it over the weekend. Oh
no,
my God, okay. It's insane.
Okay.
But like one of the most famous men in the world, one of the most famous soccer players the world will ever see, all of these things, but it really like literally goes in chronological order from when he's little, like through his entire career. And like what we know and remember of him is all the like you know, and he's married to Posh Spice and all the things. Granted, I'm not like a huge like soccer fan, but it really goes into like the things that quote unquote were setbacks. Sometimes him doing stupid shit because he was 21, you know what I mean? And like what it did to his career and coming, like there was so much that like he could have like collapsed. And every time I watch a lot of like documentaries about famous people because, and you guys have, if you haven't all listened to it, go listen like to the podcast episode that I did on the 6 traits of highly successful people, because the blueprint's always the same. Applying it to different places, this comes up for us in business, this comes up for us in life. But that resilience and that willingness to let challenge become like not a, oh no, I feel bad, this is a setback, but to let challenge put like grit in your fucking system to go at it even harder is like, that's got to be there in life. And like, as you know, if he wants to be like a somewhat professional athlete, or my brother does competitive jujitsu. And I watched him over the weekend in Atlanta. I'm like, this is
intense.
I'm like, he's in a physical fight on the floor. I'm like, we can show up on social media.
Good point. Good point.
But I think it's so cool for him to get this experience at this like stage in his career. And then for all of us to really understand, like, it's never about what happens, it's what you do with it. And that is like what the people who ends up on top, they get that no matter what area of life
your mind. That's what I had told him was, I was like, the only thing that will hold you back is your minds, because you can overcome this and you have support and we can do all of the things. But if you don't believe in yourself, and that just is like across the board, right? It's like, so you have to believe in yourself, and your mind is so powerful. And what are you going to do with it? So that was hard, emotionally draining too. And things still come up. My kids are doing really well now, but to hold their emotions with my own and separate my emotions from theirs, right? Because I don't want my kids to ever feel any pain. And at the same time, this is their experience. And I'm here to witness it and guide them, but not make it go away, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, all of that just like sunk so deep inside. It's like my own self-validation where I'm like, okay, I know what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing here. So that felt good too.
Yeah, of course. This is huge. And it's like, these things are the making of the woman who has the fucking empire, right? Of you like just feeling like not just wanting to be an incredible mother, but legit feeling like one. And not from a place of how much do you sacrifice for your family, which is what most women think is the vibe, which isn't it. What are you role modeling to your children for who they could become?
Yes. What are you role modeling to your children? That is huge. Because you can
sacrifice, is that what we want to role model? Women, just the way they move through the family system is not exactly role modeling. It's like teaching your kids to like sacrifice. It's going to be hard. This is just the way that life is. Do it even if you don't want to, not from a place of like do things that build you that feel hard, but you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, go completely against your internal guidance system, exhaust yourself. Like the modeling doesn't make any sense.
And that feeling of, okay, we just have to get through this, right?
We're gonna get through it.
We have to get through the
life.
stage. We have to get them out of the house. We have to, and then we can like live again. It's like, what is the point? Yeah. I realized way early on that I was like, I always was really, really good as a mother and wife and like as the household person, right? Like that was always one of my skills, I would say, where like I wasn't we were structured, had routines, it felt really good at home.
You weren't like hanging on by a thread.
No, I wasn't. And so it was like, I was like, well, this is kind of a superpower because lots of moms you talk to are just completely just haggard, worn down, just all of the things. And it's like, oh my gosh, how many years are you going to go through living like this? Like that doesn't feel good,
And then women tell the story that that's just how motherhood is. How many women have you heard play the narrative? I hear this all the time and I'm like, well, then like, and they're just like, oh, like being a mom is just so hard. And I'm like, that's how you want to go through the next 20 years. Actually, it's longer than that because even when your kids are out the door, they always are your kids. You're always going to think about them for the rest of your life.
So one of my hashtags that I always use is shift the motherhood paradigm.
Yeah. Like we got to do better.
Please. Yes.
And like we had these kids because we wanted to. And now the story is it's so hard. This is sort of like we birthed the business because we want to. And then we're going to be inside the business forever, being like, it's so hard. I'm not saying challenging moments don't come up. What your family experience is extremely challenging, but it's like we can experience challenges in business as well. But like the narrative of it's going to be so hard. Like I'm like, why don't we become the people who naturally create ease so that even when challenge arises, we go through it in the most optimal way possible. So whereas someone else is going to have it be a 6-month, 1-year drama with something big, you're like, cool, we can get grounded in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah,
saying things won't come up, but you get my point.
I do.
Yeah.
100%.
So this is just so beautiful. And also I just love like what doing the work and being so committed as you are has just like done for you and your family. That ripple effect is so real. It never stops with us.
It's like I'm able to check myself so quick where it's like I feel something inside, right? Like something hits my body and I'm like, oh, like I'm irritated or impatient or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
then I'm able to like completely snap myself out of it. And I know that it's, yes, 100% because of all of the work that I've done and putting myself in spaces for self-development and creating a life that feels really fucking good. You know, like
Yeah.
that's what I want. That's what's like available to everybody. I'm just
It
gonna,
really is. And this is my whole thing. Like, let's feel good. This is what got me here. This is at the core of my work. Doesn't mean that we need to feel high vibe every 5 minutes to attract. That's very different than what I mean. But I mean just that level of like grounded neutrality, confidence, soul satisfaction, feeling chill in your body, chill in your mind. Like, that's how you create a lot.
and what I also realized in being in this specific container is that you can feel like that without like that concept of, okay, just being in somebody's frequency, right?
Yeah.
It can seem kind of esoteric or like out there and not tangible, right? Like, well, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to make me feel? And it was so apparent that just being in the space, just without even doing anything, you just get those frequencies and energetic shifts and changes in your life just by simply being. And
I
that
always
is,
call it a being container, not a doing container. I'm like, all
yeah,
you need to do is show up and like catch a replay if you can't. Like that's what
yeah,
needs to be happening here.
yeah. And you get all of the good stuff. You get it all without having to do anything or anybody having to do something like outside of you. You know, I think that's a
Yeah.
lot of what people think. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to sign up for this, and what am I going to get? And it's like just be there and it'll
And you'll see.
and allow it to all come in because it will.
And this is the type of space we as women need. There's so much doing. I'm like, you want to learn how to receive, come into a being space where
Mhm.
you actually get to receive the benefit of, okay, let's just show up. We're going to do the work. Obviously, I'm there to mentor you, yada, yada, yada. But then all you get to, you just watch how life starts unfolding for you. It literally feels like magic. Like there's
So that,
no other ways for me to say it other than it feels like magic. And I've seen it over and over and over and over and over again.
and another amazing thing, see more, I keep remembering more things, is the level of support that I got within my home, not just by like outsourcing things, because I do that and I started doing that even more. Like I just literally hired somebody to come fold my laundry.
Yeah. Well, there's 6 of you. So
Like,
yeah, I don't
yeah,
even do my own
I
laundry
just
and
don't
there's
have the
one.
time. But
Yeah.
prior to that, like I, by not really doing anything, but just by being and receiving, I have gotten so much more support from my husband, like in
Yeah.
so many ways. Because I was a year ago, I was like, well, how am I going to start a business? Because I don't have time and who's going to take care of the kids and who's going to do the grocery shopping and la, 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 la. And over the summer, even before the summer, but really over the summer when I was in FMM, it's like, it's as though his entire schedule, like he's never had as much free time as he's had this past like 5 or 6 months. And so by him having all of that space, it then creates space for him to fill in gaps and for us to like have time together. And yeah, we also, right before the fires, we spontaneously, I think you had said, well, what are you guys doing together? Because I was having an issue. And so we spontaneously took a trip to another island because we were invested in a business over there and they were having a party. And so we just went and had like the funnest weekend together, just like without planning or thinking or what am I going to do with all the kids and how am I, we're just like, let's just do it. And everything worked out and the kids were taken care of and we had such a good time. And
living. Yeah. Everyone wants this like juicy relationship. I'm like, how much time do you guys spend alone? Like, are you still having fun? You know, like everything does not need to be so serious just because we're married and have kids.
And it doesn't need to be so difficult to arrange.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's what I think that really shifted too. It's like, instead of being like, okay, well, how am I going to make it happen? It just kind of happens.
Yeah. But you learn to expect it to.
Yeah. And
But
the
like,
more you do that, then the more it does, because then that cycle is broke. So it's like, you're just used to that in your body. So you're like, duh, of course.
totally. Like when things come up, like for example, being a business owner, there's always going to be something, things shift, things change, whatever. Or, you know, maybe an important team member has to go or whatever it is. And like, when this has happened, I'm just like, whatever. I'm like, because I'm unavailable for being stressed out, you know, and I'm like, it's just gonna sort out. Like, I will do my part, et cetera, et cetera. But like my decision on these kind of like difficult things is I'm like, the way it needs to be, it doesn't put me in action, but I have this what I call embodied surrender where I just know and I'm like, I just know that I'm supported. I just know life works for me. I just know this is what we do. Not because it always felt that way. We all know my story, but because I've done the work to now have that experience and I'm so comfortable receiving, I don't feel like I need to chase. I do feel like, okay, cool, like let me put things in motion, but I'm like, the universe is going to show me the way forward. And then it'll be like, I'm not thinking, then like, boom, something will show up right in my face. I'm like, oh my God, that's it. Go move towards that. And that ends up being the answer. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, I can know what needs to happen, but sit back to let life unfold right in front of me. But I'm aware enough. And then I see the solution when it's right in front of my face.
I feel like that also happened to my channel, like opened up even bigger.
Yeah. Because you're more connected. So you're like,
yeah.
You're like subconsciously on the lookout for the thing. And then when you see it, you know, but you weren't really chasing it. Or like sometimes I'll be led to connect with a certain person. Like when I was looking for, I needed to fill a position on my team and like, it wasn't like feeling good to like put it back on the internet. I was like, there's just someone who's going to know the person. This doesn't need to be a big drama. And I was led to like, obviously I have lots of friends who are coaches, but I was led to someone very specific and she totally did. And that ended up like being my person, you know, but I've had so many of these experiences. I'm like, we don't always need to start creating this like huge uproar and like all of this stuff when like, if you want things to happen in a simple way, like you have to sort of allow it to be simple. Sometimes we need to make
kind of like you're just living. The simpleness is you're just living. You're going about your day and you're open to what presents itself. And you just
I'll say there's hard decisions. Like I've had to fire people. I've had to let stuff go. I've had to do all these things to make this space. Like that can be the hard part. Sometimes we have to make space for the thing that we want. But I know it's worth it because I know how manifestation works. I'm like, whatever, I can have this birth canal moment for fucking 2 days and like get what I want for my life.
I just had to fire somebody actually today. And I was kind of like a little bit torn up about it over the weekend. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna do that. I'm not gonna make this whole explanation. Like if I'm paying somebody and I'm not satisfied with how my money is being utilized, like I don't need to give them a story. I don't need to give myself a story. It just like less is more. Just okay, moving on. This isn't working. No hard feelings. And it was fine. And it was totally fine. And then that's what when you realize how much like we do it to ourselves, right? Like
the drama train, the drama train. Then we're like, why isn't everything in my life working? I'm like, because you are on the drama train.
Yes,
Saying that
exactly.
you want ease, magic, and miracles.
Yeah, get off the train.
Get off the drama train. But like, it's so normalized to be on it. No one knows how to get off.
Well, and then when you're aware of it too, and you go out into social
Yeah,
situations,
you're like, what?
yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't. I'm like, okay, make a bubble around myself. Yeah, it's like listening. And especially, I mean, now, like, obviously in our community, it's like this huge, heavy thing, which not because I don't care and I'm not empathetic and compassionate and dealing with my own things surrounding losing our town, but it's
Yeah.
I just don't really have any desire to be in
To
public.
like go down, like, what are we gonna do? Like, we're all here, we're alive. Like,
I know it's like you can't just
there's
talk
nothing
about
you
the
can
same
do.
thing. I know.
Yeah.
And so that's like an extreme situation, right? But even before that, just noticing it when you're out and about and you're with friends and like, yeah, I've had subtle shifts like that too, where it's not like, okay, well, I don't agree with how you are talking shit or you're negative. So now I'm just not gonna be your friend. It's like,
No,
it's just, you just kind of like start going this other way and
you
everything
just go
just
in a
works
different
out
direction.
easy. Yeah, you're off the
Exactly.
drama plane. So there's no drama surrounding the losing the drama train. It's just kind of like, okay, I'm going this way instead.
Literally. And then that's how we, as you know, I like to say, get to Rome quickly instead of going around the world 5,000 different times when we're going to get there because we're distracted in chaos that is so normalized. You don't even realize you're doing it. And then when you learn to stop and have done the work to just even release the party that wants to engage it in the first place, you're like, oh, like then all of a sudden life feels clear. Then all of a sudden you feel directed. Then all of a sudden things are working even when they were hard. Like it's just like, oh, like it's simple. And I don't mean simple in terms of like boring. I mean like, oh, okay, like things just get to unfold and unfold and unfold again. Okay, cool. I came up against this thing. Yes, I need to fire this person, let go of this client, do whatever, because this isn't, I'm now very clear on what's congruent with like who what I say that I'm here to have, who I say that I'm here to be, and then what I let into my field. And we're going to get different levels of awareness around that. Like as our frequency is expands, we're also shown what's not in alignment with current frequency. All good. Take care of that because we know why we're doing it. Don't need to bring all our trauma drama to it. Like, let's just, what's good for you is good for them, is good for everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're a stop on their road, just like they're a stop on your road. And like, let's just keep moving forward and get what you want out of life.
Yeah, instead of making stories around everything and
Everything.
tripping you up. Yes.
Yeah.
I learned that really, really clearly over the summer too. That was another huge thing where I was like, I'm so aware of it now where it's like, I'll hear something and I can completely just immediately stop myself from making the story around it.
Going
I'm like,
into the
that's not
story.
like, yeah, that's just my emotional attachment to what, like, I'm not doing that. So me being able, just feeling so much more secure and solid in myself that it's like, I'm just not, I'm just like a completely different person.
And that's the biggest fucking flex of all time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like, it really is. I'm like, if y'all want to have life goals, this is it. Y'all want to make a lot of money, this is it. If you want to create anything, this is it, and feel good in your life. Like, we've got to have this.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, this is so cool. I am just so happy. I love these episodes so much. And thank God Oshun came to me and downloaded that space. Like, good Lord, it's like bigger than I am.
Yeah, that was for the spells too. I had ordered like my Oshun and my Goblin and I remember my kids like opening the Amazon packages, like, what is
What's your
going
mom
on?
doing? It's like turn into a crazy witch. Mom's
Just
having a midlife crisis.
yeah. They're all reaping the rewards from it though. So nobody's
Yeah.
complaining.
Oh my God, this is beautiful. Well, if there's anyone on the fence around joining FMM or coming anywhere else into my world, what would you have to say to them? Because now you've been in a lot of different things and some close proximity things and some programs and master classes. You kind of done a sampling of a lot of everything.
So it's kind of hard for me to speak, right, if you're on the fence, because obviously I wasn't.
You were never on the fence. You just kind of came in guns
How do I
blazing
get
into
in? How do I
everything.
get in? Yeah, I would just say, obviously, just
Well,
do
I mean,
it.
when I say on the fence, I mean they haven't made the move yet.
Yeah,
you were very
yeah.
guns blazing, and
I
look at
can't,
your
yes.
results. Here we are, you know.
I mean, I would say, like, why not? Like, why not? You know, like, if you have the potential to completely transform your life, if we're speaking specifically from FMM, about FMM,
Yeah.
um yeah, if you have that opportunity in front of you, yeah, just fucking do it. Like, you have absolutely nothing to lose and so much to gain, like, so much to gain.
And it's so cool because it's such an intimate space. I get to be so close to everybody's journey. And it's like, I don't know how many times I've run it now, 4 or 5, something like that. I'm like, every time, every single person changes so much.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's
No,
just,
I was listening. I had listened on over and over to all of all of the stories. I'm like, I want to be that person.
and here
I
you are.
know. Full circle moment, talking to the auntie.
This is so cool. Oh, the last question I wanted to ask you is I was just like so captivated by everything you were sharing, and I forgot to ask. You mentioned that you gained the clarity in what you wanted to do in your business while you were in the space. And I was
Yeah.
just wondering a little bit about that.
So there was a few things that basically, like, I had my idea and then it just, like, solidified. So I have it's a Birthing with Ease program, which is a 6-week program, and that is surrounding, like, I had incredible birth experiences, and what I noticed is that women get bombarded from society and from their ancestors and their moms and their aunties and grandmas with all of, like, this negativity surrounding pregnancy and birth. And I, very early on in my first pregnancy, was like, fuck that, I'm not doing it that way. And had great results in all of these things that I innately did. And pretty much being pregnant and birthing your baby is the first step in shifting the mother, like, in the best way, right? Is shifting the motherhood paradigm. And so this is a program to dismantle and any societal beliefs, anything that's not, like, in your best interest in creating a birth of ease and efficiency, anchoring in frequencies of power, trust in your body, a really deep soul connection to your baby. Like, this is an experience happening for your baby as well, not just you. It's like both of your experience. And if you can tap into that together, your birth experience will be so much easier. And when I say ease, birthing with ease, I don't mean it's easy. I just mean the mind, body, spirit connection into your baby. And so we do that. I have, like, some special energetic work and breath work and different modules and journal prompts and all kinds of things. We make space for the birth that you desire, essentially. So that came in really clear. And immediately after FMM, I ran a master class, or right when I came into the cohort, I ran a master class and had 30 people in it, having
Which,
never done a master class.
having never done a master
Yeah.
class, you had your first 30 people.
Yeah.
Like, how cool.
Yeah. So that was really cool. And then another program, I have the Sacred Postpartum, and that is for women could be immediately after birth all the way to into their first year. And this is womb healing, nutrition support, nursing support, community support. It's bi-weekly calls, live breath work, relationship support, community. Basically, like, I think I explained it to you, like, it's like a mastermind for postpartum women.
Yeah.
I always have had really incredible support and relationships and didn't struggle in my postpartum. But I also set myself up for success. And this isn't the case for all women. And so I realized that. So created that program. And this is what anchored in even, like, the most during FMM and through the fires. And this is going to launch in 2024. I'm going to go on pre-sale in probably the next week or so. and it's a program called Lead and They Will Follow. And this is the self-development evolution of mom, and in her raising her vibration, parlaying that into the family unit. And as she rises, they all rise to meet her. And this is like what I was talking about with you, where it's like you as a mom make all these shifts and learn about yourself and develop yourself in all these positive ways, and your family just automatically reaps the rewards, and your communication and relationships get so much better. So we'll do like inner child work, shadow work, we'll break ancestral trauma and patterns, subconscious programming. We'll focus on relationship support, communication support, all kinds of things. And I fully 100% expect that this is going to be a 3-month program, that moms, women are going to come out of this completely transformed as well. It's like my full embodiment of this past year. And then it just anchored in so deep through August, was like, oh my gosh, I have to share this with the world, because in doing so, if we can shift mom's energy, that will relate to the child. And if I can make an impact on the children who are growing up and going to take over the world, like there's nothing better than that, you know, and it all starts in your home. So hence, I want to create homes. I want to support women in creating homes that feel really fucking good.
Yeah. And why do you feel like FMM influenced you in that way? Like obviously you had the overarching desire, but when you mentioned like that's how the containers dropped in for you.
I feel like it gave me that like that solid, the best way I can, it's like this feeling in my body. It's almost like I can't really even put it into words. It's like that like solid feeling in myself, and feeling like things that I knew how I kind of operated, or like I had mentioned, like I innately did things through birth and postpartum and raising my family and how I operate my family. But now it's just like in there, like so deep, right?
Like this
And,
inner
yeah,
solidity, you have to feel it. I know what you mean.
yes. And
Without
then
the
through
doubt and all the doubt and worry and back and forth and like you feel steady.
yeah. And so through FMM, doing like the different healing modalities, and then also a lot of really taking in, like asking a question, but really like taking in the response, right? And thinking about it and making it work for me, and like operating that way, right? Because it's one thing to be like, oh, well, I'm having this and this issue, and what do I do about it? And then it's like, well, I would do X, Y, and Z. But if you don't take that and actually do something with it, you're not gonna,
Well, nothing's gonna change. Yeah.
nothing's gonna change. Exactly. So basically, I through FMM, I took all the things and I like absorbed it, and just yeah, the like the self-confidence in showing up for myself, creating space for myself, caring for myself, and not like I kind of lost, not 100%, but like that feeling of caring about what other people think or how they see me, or am I like, who am I to think that I'm so amazing that I can help other people, right? Like that, I don't feel like that anymore.
Thank
Like,
God.
that's the full embodiment of like, yeah, I can totally help you, and you should let me help you, because your life will completely transform.
Like the end.
Mm. Yeah.
Just speaking facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, honey. For me, it's all music to my ears. This is what I want for us: power, money, sovereignty, command over life, command over frequency, command over money, command over how things move through us, for us, relaxing into our relationships, being able to receive from the man you married. Imagine that.
Mhm.
Just like the things that we can get away from. And it's like, but this is what makes life feel good. And that's what we want. We want wealth without the cost. We want our life without the cost. Everything doesn't need to come at a cost. You were just taught that it did.
Yeah, so it's like taking all of these concepts that I learned in FMM and then relating it, because what I did, right, I related it back into my home environment. And then,
Which is so cool because that's
yeah,
that's for you, like the personal side of the work. Yeah.
yes. And so then realizing that it's like that is the foundation for all of these children coming up. Like if mom can do that, like hold her family in that kind of way, the world will be a better place.
And
So
your
I don't want
kids
to
will
say,
be happy. Don't we
yeah,
want to raise our kids to be like
and
solid
you'll feel
fucking
good, right?
people? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you can. It's like you don't stop living because you have children. It's like,
No.
let's just throw that out the door and create the life that you desire. It's like,
Yeah.
what are we waiting for? You know, I did wait. I waited for a while. And I did have, that being said, I had a good life and I always enjoyed myself and did really, you know, however, there's so much more to it. And if you give yourself the space and the time, it's like the world completely opens up for you.
Yeah. So beautiful. Well, I've loved this. So, for anyone who would like to get in touch with you, check out your work, get to know you deeper, what is the best way to reach you? And we will also put your links in episode notes, of
Yeah.
course.
So my website is breathofhani.com, and that's Hani. And Instagram is my best, more so than Facebook, and that's Breath of Hani at Breath of Hani. So it's
Okay,
easy.
perfect.
Breath of Hani. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This was
Thank
so
you.
cool. I love these
Yeah.
stories. They're
Thank
so
you.
good. Of course.